Hello, this is Dr. Barnes. Uh, the purpose of this lecture is to continue our discussion regarding your research paper, in particular the analysis section, which comes after the abstract. Now that all of you at least have some sense of what an abstract should illustrate, this is the time to present the next section, and that's what we're doing here. Remember that the abstract consists of a generalized overview of your topic or issue, and that it must contain a purpose or thesis statement, which can appear anywhere in the abstract. It makes no difference where you put it, although they usually appear either in the beginning or at the end, but depending on how you organize the abstract itself will depend upon where that statement will be. So that's up to you. Although in most abstracts, remember again that it appears either in the beginning or at the end. That is the usual. In the analysis, I guess this is the best way to begin here. We are concerned with several descriptive terms that will explain what the analysis really is, and that is investigation, examination, scrutiny, and looking at the various aspects of your chosen topic or issue. I guess to sum that up, we're really just utilizing a piece-by-piece approach. We're breaking it down in order to analyze, which is what we're saying here, analysis of your issue that relates to the search outcomes that you have to pursue in order to find the information that's going to justify your abstract. In your searches, you're really attempting to introduce theoretical concepts by integrating them into your topic or issue, and then discuss the relevant literature. By the way, though it is not a hard and fast rule, I should bring this up now. The lengths of the analysis should be about 1,000 words. It can be 900, 1,100. But that's generally what they are, and so you should try to frame it in that context and in that 1,000-word limit. The analysis is the essential first step in the development of it, really, and it should combine both the theoretical concepts and the literature review or search under the section identified as analysis. I don't want to wear this out, but I want to make sure you know what I'm getting at here so you don't get confused. It is also permissible and probably a good idea to refer to the analysis by another description that would be appropriate for the topic. For example, in the last lecture, we presented one example that was, the topic was, is the market for automobiles declining? That's something that you could describe the nature and the substance of the analysis, for instance, as why the automobile makers are afraid. So instead of using the word analysis, you would use a substitute title, why the automobile makers are afraid. That is not so boring. If you use analysis, it doesn't say very much. It just says analysis, and people, your audience is not motivated to read beyond that sometimes. So you can use analysis, but I would prefer, and I think for a better grade, you would want to use a different title that describes what is in the analysis, in a few words. Okay, let's look at an example of the last lecture. In fact, let's just continue with the automobile issue. The topic was this: is the market for automobiles declining? And we decided in that lecture, I believe, that the relevant theory would be supply and demand. And then we developed an abstract, and this is how it goes. I'm just going to read it here, what we have. Teens and the early 30-somethings make up the largest demographic of the U.S. Traditionally, this, this, this demographic drives more, but are apparently driving less than previous generations. We prefer to live in urban areas, abandoning cars for mass transit and bicycles and walking. This paper is concerned with the changes in preferences and taste and the new technologies that are driving these trends and what automobile manufacturers must do to mitigate these trends. Okay, that's the abstract. So from that, we would develop the analysis, and this is how we would do it. So with this topic, then, both supply and demand are definitely critical, because that's what we're saying in the abstract. In so many words, we're not using the word supply and demand, but we're using those terms that apply to supply and demand theory. So that's why that would be the relevance theory. To develop an analysis, that you would consult your textbook or conduct searches through Bing or Google or some other search engine for theoretical explanation of supply and demand. And by the way, while I'm here, sometimes your textbook, when you're trying to write, gets into a lot of detail, and there's a restatement of this and a restatement of that, and it goes into much more detail than you're going to need to write your paper. You really need a more simplistic discussion of, in this case, supply and demand theory. And there's some good websites, but I'm going to give you one that I use quite often that I think really does a good job of summing things up in a nutshell. Whether it be micro or macroeconomic theory, it makes no difference. And the site is Investopedia, just like encyclopedia, Investopedia.com. And when you get to that site, you would have to click on the tabs at the top, and I think it says tutorials. And when you click on that, the drop-down menu will show you economic principles, I believe is what it reads. Click on that, and you can put in the search engine any aspect of economics, whether it be micro or macroeconomics, and it will come up with something. And it's usually much more simplistic than what's in the book. And I'm not telling you not to read the book. Please read the book, because you get a much better overall picture of what supply and demand is. But when you're writing and you're limited to 1,200 words, sometimes you need some way to sum up what you've read in your text, and I believe the site actually does a good job of that. Okay, so we know that this is critical. So to develop an analysis, you should consult the textbook then and conduct searches in order to find information that explain a theoretical explanation of supply and demand theory, which I just gave you a good site. There are many other ones, by the way, but I think we'll stick with one here, so we won't get you too confused or running off in different directions. You can utilize the supply and demand curves too in your illustration, and you can visualize your purpose statement and support your purpose statement by utilizing those curves. And what I mean by that is that you're going to need graphs, charts, and tables. These are excellent for enhancing the quality and the appearance of your paper. Their impact on the audience and the general illustrative usefulness of your topic. Readers like that. You've heard the term "picture says 1,000 words." Well, I think that should really say it all. I like graphs and charts because I can read those, and it can sum up some things in your paper without really, having to read everything, because again, it tells me more than you would think. You can learn a lot from graphs and charts, more so than words, because sometimes you just keep reading words and words and words and words, and you just kind of drift and you lose your audience. So those are very, very good to use, and probably your grade would be better if you did that. So let's think about that, and I can help you with that if you're having trouble with it. So let me know, okay? So we know that preferences or taste change uh, are determinants of demand. So when preferences change or taste change, demand changes. So here we're talking about the market demand for automobiles. So if taste change, demand is going to move in one direction or the other. It will either increase or decrease. In this case, we're talking about a younger demographic who are not really that turned on with cool automobiles so much anymore. They're more maybe into mass communications, and they don't really see the need for a car, at least when it comes to very expensive cars. So taste of change, and that's going to have the tendency to decrease demand uh, and move the demand curve downward towards the vertical axis of your graph, and that is just going to shift downward to the left, or it's going to decrease. So there's less demand for the current crop of automobiles that are being produced. I mean, you can see it. You look at Toyota with Scion, and that's been sort of a disappointment because for one thing, they're very expensive. The younger demographics having a hard enough time finding good paying jobs, and they don't want to spend $30,000 for an automobile because that's all they would have. They wouldn't have any other freedom to do anything else. So that has a lot to do with it. But there are other things. I'm just throwing this out as I'm talking. I'm probably saying too much, but maybe you'll get the idea if I continue to talk. Uh, by the way, when we speak of demand, some people say, "Well, what do you mean by demand?" And it's really very simple. At each and every price on the demand curve, if you multiply the number of units sold, you will get what's called total revenue. So the demand curve represents nothing more than total revenue. It's that simple. Uh, so I'll always kind of keep that in mind. So it's just the price of the vehicles times the number of units sold. Um, automobile producers will not produce as many automobiles. Why? Because once they get it, that taste of change, and that young people are not going to pay that much for a car, or they just don't like the cars because they're not cool, they don't look the way they want them to look. Numerous reasons, all based on taste, preferences, and probably incomes. So, assuming that we are categorizing automobiles generically here, we're not saying one particular make of automobile or one particular type of automobile. We're just sort of generically saying that the demand for automobiles will be less based on preferences and taste. But what automobile producers will do, they will supply less because they have too many cars sitting on the lot that are not being sold. So that means that the supply curve is going to shift to the left, right? Upward towards the vertical axis. The task for the automobile producers then is to produce automobiles that consumers want, that will shift demand uh, back to the right, or the demand curve back to the right. So that demand will increase. It'll move away from the vertical axis. This in turn will shift the supply curve back to the right, or downward from the vertical axis. Now, I'm saying all this so you get an idea of how you may present that in your paper, in your analysis, and then integrate that into why this demographic is taste of change, and that will explain the reasons why these curves move the way they do. Okay, now your literature search uh, has to entail information that supports your thesis or purpose statement, which reflects a general overview of the abstract and its stated purpose. Uh, for instance, in the abstract, we said that the young demographic was a reason for the change in taste and preferences, which was illustrated through examples such as they prefer to live in urban centers, abandoning cars for mass transit, bicycles, and walking. In fact, I just mentioned another aspect of that is that their expected incomes are not that great, right? They think future incomes may not be really that uh, motivating in the sense that why should I put a lot of money in an automobile and I'm not sure what my income is going to be, or I'm not sure if my income is going to go up, remain the same, or even if I don't have a job. That's how this generation is thinking, and that's the way they should think, because it's very iffy. Uh, Expected incomes, by the way, is also a determinant of demand. So as incomes go up, demand goes up. Demand curve shifts to the right. As incomes go down, demand goes back to the left. When incomes go up and taste and preferences have changed, and then automobile producers respond to that, they will sell a lot of automobiles. That's what we're assuming. In fact, you hear in the news that automobile makers are selling. Uh, I forgot. I think it's 11 point some million units this year, and that's a record year. In fact, I believe it's more than that. I may be off a few million here. I can't really recall the number, but it's a record year for the automobile. But it's not that younger demographic is buying them. It's people in my generation that are buying them, and they're buying the big cars, and I don't buy them, but that's what they're buying. And when you get to be in your 40s and above, you start thinking about you kind of want to get that hot rod that I was going to get when I was young and didn't have the money. That's how my generation thinks. So, but the young generation is not into that. Again, their taste have changed. It's a whole new ball game. They're more urbanized, and they really just hop on a bus and go to where they're going to go and stay there, and heck with a car payment. And traffic patterns get any worse, I think I might do the same thing. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to do. By the way, when you find information, it's got to be supported with credible, relevant information. I mean, it can't be irrelevant. It can't be bogus. Has to be documented. So it's got to come from good sources, by various individuals or institutional people who work for institutions, who write for institutions like newspapers and magazines and journals and so on and so forth, and various media. So that's where you're going to find your information. And the quickest way, again, if you're looking for a quick way, is to do a search. There's an art in searching, and if you do enough of it, you'll understand how to do it. I've gotten really good at it because that's what I do. And if you do it a lot, you either get good at it or you stop doing it because you can't get good at it. And I just continued to do it until I got really good at it. And that's what you have to do, is just practice. And you can sit down and write a paper very, very quickly when you learn how to do that. Okay, so the second topic was also in the other lecture, was on biofuels, and this was the issue. Why the development of biofuels is essential, the promise and implications for a sustainable resource. The theory was resource efficiency, which is sometimes referred to as the economizing problem. Doing the best with what we have. We use that a lot as a sort of a generic way of describing it. And then, of course, the relevant theory in the economizing problem was production possibilities theory and production possibilities curve. And you can utilize that in your paper. Again, it would be a graph, and you can explain a lot of the theory using that. So I would suggest, if you write any paper based that deals with resource efficiency and environmental issues and that kind of thing, that you use graphs. You use the production possibilities theory and graph. Okay, so the abstract we came up with was, scientists say that biofuels, which do not rely on petroleum products, could reduce the U.S. carbon footprint by 80%. They also claim that it is only a matter of time before manufacturers phase out petroleum products in favor of the more profitable, sustainable biosynthetic versions. This paper will examine these issues in light of resource efficiency and the production possibilities, given that biofuels ultimately replace petroleum as the world's most sought after resource. Okay, so to develop an analysis here, you would consult your textbook and our searches on Bing and Google, again, or other search engines, for an appropriate for an explanation, not appropriate, although an appropriate explanation of resource efficiency and resource sustainability, with particular emphasis on oil. Now, again, you can go to this site that I gave you, investopedia.org, or you can just type into Google resource efficiency and biofuels, and you'll probably get some good explanations. You might even get one that's perfect for it. Okay. You need more than one, but if you find one that's really good, then you can venture out from that to find more that would supplement that, so you have a better explanation of your topic. You may want to include production possibilities theory. I think I've already said that, utilizing the curve as an illustration in the paper. Again, what's good about that is that it just enhances the appearance and the quality of the paper, and it impacts the audience. There's no question about that. And it gives a more wide-ranging portrayal of your topic. Okay, now with this topic, both resource efficiency and sustainability are critical to not only support your thesis, but also as a basis for your analysis again. That is, we need to know how biofuels would reduce the U.S. carbon footprint. For example, by stressing their profitability, and why? Because people are going to do what? They're not going to produce petroleum if they can produce biofuels and make more money. It's all about self-interest. And biofuels, by the way, are highly profitable. And they can also be derived from the use of sugars through a fermentation process. And I think we throw away more trash every year than any country on the face of the earth. Maybe China's a little bit ahead of us at this point, but all that goes to waste. And it of course, it ferments, and that could be used as a way to produce energy. There's another reason that biofuels would be really good, and that's the possibility of higher paying jobs. And not only is that a possibility, it's a reality. I was reading, I cannot remember which publication, but likely The Economist or the New York Times or Wall Street Journal, one of those probably appears on all three of them, who knows. But anyway, there was a producer of biofuels, I believe in Wisconsin, and he said, I cannot find people. He said, I have all kinds of job openings that pay good money, not $7.50 an hour that you probably contend with at this point, but $20 and $30 and $40 and $50 an hour, depending on your area. If you're in science and technology, you're going to do extremely well. If you have an engineering degree, you'll make a lot of money. So that's where the jobs are. It's in these new technologies that now are just really beginning to generate profits, and you know, technology is not only is technology responsible for the ability to produce biofuels efficiently. Biofuels themselves tend to advance more technology, so it sort of feeds on itself. So this is a great topic for somebody who wants to tackle it. Okay, so again, you can utilize the production possibilities curve to illustrate and visualize the supportability of your thesis and purpose statement. Okay, all right. I think I've talked enough here and probably rambled too much, but again, take this seriously, and if you need my help, you know what? You just got to contact me, and I'll help you out. That's my job, and I'd love to help you. Don't wait. If you get confused and you don't know what to do, don't feel badly. Just let me know. It really doesn't matter. And I can't think of anything else. I think I've covered this pretty well. The next video will probably be a transition from the analysis into your summary or your introduction or something like that. and then you'll have enough to be able to write, you know, this paper plus the next two. And you should be in. You're gonna be frustrated. This is not easy, and then it's, you know, you get all just, you know, turned upside down. You get confused, and you throw things at the wall or whatever. But it gets easier, and I want you guys to do well. So I'm gonna make it hard, you know, in a sense. But in the end, it's gonna be easy because I'll let up on you if you do a good job, you know. But I'm gonna really push you to be a good writer, and I know you can do it. Okay, so have a great day and stay in touch. I'll see you. Thanks.